Good morning. I'm Julia Rampone, and I'm currently the president of the Tapestry Board of Trustees. When I was asked to talk to you today about leadership, I do what I usually do when asked to speak, go to the internet to look for inspiration. I'm always hoping there will be one or two quotes or articles that will provide the aha to get me started. Just in case you're a statistics person, Googling the term leadership returns 4.1 billion results in under a second. That is a whole lot of information to plow through looking for inspiration. So I decided to step back from the data tsunami and provide a more personal reflection on what impact leadership has had in my life. I spent 20 years of my career in financial planning and analysis for two large semiconductor manufacturing corporations. Most corporations are built and operated on a sort of quasi-military structure with clearly defined ranks, responsibilities, and reporting relationships. I actually found myself fitting pretty comfortably in this environment. My job had certain expectations and goals. I knew who I needed to report results to. I knew who to go to in other departments for information, and I learned a lot about delegating and managing people. My corporate work wasn't continuous, and somewhere in the middle I got a wild hair and I bought a travel agency in San Juan Capistrano. I figured if I could spell entrepreneur, I could be one. Actually, I ran the agency successfully for 7 years before selling it. You know, people often say it's just business about a variety of things, but when every dollar you pay an employee is a dollar you don't get to take home or reinvest in the business, it seems very personal. I learned a lot about myself and my leadership style in the process and came to the conclusion I'd much rather have subordinates than employees. That realization, along with airlines cutting commissions to travel agencies, prompted my decision to sell. Including early employment, I have certainly had the opportunity to view firsthand a whole lot of different types of leadership styles in very diverse organizations. Some experiences have been absolutely stellar with bosses I would follow anywhere. Some have also been appallingly, horrifyingly bad, one of which I actually wrote up for a worst practices exercise in graduate school. I've also had the opportunity to act as a leader with both employees and subordinates in a fairly wide range of situations, including managing multinational teams on 2 different international assignments. With all of these varied experiences, I've learned a few things. The heavy-handed exercise of authority can have positive short-term results, but will not produce the best long-term outcome. Treating people with respect is paramount. Everyone can and usually wants to contribute, and the key is to help people align their personal goals as much as possible with the organizational goals. Truly good leadership is infrequent and precious, and I've been very fortunate to observe and work with it on a few occasions. Great leadership can move mountains, inspire people to achieve things they never thought possible, and change the world in small and great ways. During my time as president of the Board of Trustees, I feel fortunate that I was able to use my particular skills when Tapestry could most benefit from them. As I mentioned, my background is in finance. I tend to be organized, and I am a natural problem solver. I can usually delegate pretty well. All of these attributes certainly came in handy just after the purchase of the building when we had to deal with construction budgets, sources of funding, and an infinite list of issues to be addressed. I truly enjoyed putting all the pieces together, working with such diverse people as the architect, the previous owner of the building, various Tapestry committees, and the boards of several grant organizations. During this process, I also felt a very strong personal obligation for a positive outcome. Up to this point, numerous people had made exceptionally generous donations to the Capital Fund. 17 members of this congregation stepped up and loaned the balance of what was required to get us into the new building. There was no question that this congregation was all in to make this long-held dream a reality. As many of you remember, we were working with a very, very tight budget. I was excited that I had just about figured out how to close the funding gap and get into the building. I was actually sleeping again at night. Well, you know how it is that sometimes this 5 minutes, everything is terrific, and the next 5 minutes brings complete disaster? Well, July 16th, 2018 was that day for me. We had been working with preliminary budget numbers before receiving a detailed workup from all the subcontractors who would be involved in the construction. I opened an email from John Summers, our contractor, who was now providing a revised budget which included all the bids from the various subs. The new total was, hold on to your hats, $125,000 above our previous estimate. $125,000. To say that I had a moment of absolute panic would be the understatement of the century. It was one of the worst moments of my entire life. My very first thought was, how on earth do I tell the Tapestry congregation that everything we've done so far is lost because there's no way we can afford this construction budget? My second thought, literally, was I'm going to sell everything I own and move to a yurt in Mongolia because I can never face any of these people again. Truth. Fortunately, after a few deep breaths, my problem-solving skills kicked into overdrive, and I did what many leaders do when faced with a crisis, summon the experts. My first call was to Stephanie Leyland, our architect. I explained about the new quote and the absolute impossibility of being able to afford the increase. Happily for us, her problem-solving skills are truly exceptional. With her experience and creativity, she laid out several options for us to alter our construction plans to reduce costs back to something that we could afford. We were able to make many of the changes, and the result is what you see around you. It wasn't easy, it wasn't fast, and it certainly wasn't pretty, but I'm proud of what I was able to contribute getting us into this building. Besides being able to draw upon the considerable talents of and work closely with various Tapestry members, I learned how to write a grant. I learned a lot about Lake Forest building codes. And I enjoyed the great opportunity to interface with a motivated, energized, and committed team of people from different organizations to accomplish a long-held dream of this congregation. In my time as president, I have always felt a tremendous sense of responsibility to each of you here at Tapestry. You are an exceptional group of people concerned not only with the health of the congregation, but with improving the lives of those around us. It's very important to me that you are supported in your good work. Being a UU has enhanced my life in ways too numerous to list. There have been challenges, both as a member and a congregational leader. I know I have grown, and I hope I have contributed as much to this faith and to this congregation as they have enriched my life. Thank you.
How leadership involvement with Tapestry has affected my faith has been a very great question for me to ponder. As a UU, I, of course, began by questioning myself. How do I define leadership? What is faith? What does my faith look like? And how has it changed because of my involvement as a leader? As Connie mentioned, I have been in the healthcare field my entire life and have exclusively worked with nonprofits, serving as the senior-most leader in various capacities, at a hospital, at a dental clinic, as board chairs. I'm familiar with leadership roles and responsibilities. My go-to definition of leadership includes the myriad of organizational responsibilities, which include mission, vision, fiscal stewardship, oversight for programming, strategic planning, hiring quality staff, developing future leaders to carry the vision forward. So defining leadership was relatively easy for me. But faith, more on how to define faith later, I'm still evolving around that. But I can tell you that my adventure in faith started here at Tapestry, several buildings ago. For this moment, I'm going to focus on just 3 leadership areas that I find compelling: programming, strategic planning, and developing the next generation of leaders to carry the vision. My involvement with Tapestry's Religious Exploration for Children and Youth, or RECE as we call it, programming began years ago when I realized that we, the congregation, were the teachers for the religious education program. But other than the occasional Christmas services at Grandma and Grandpa's Southern Baptist Church, I didn't grow up in a religion. How could I possibly be a teacher? I honestly don't remember who tapped me to help out with the RECE program. So with some trepidation, I volunteered in that first class 19 years ago. I have learned about Hinduism, paganism, Christianity. I've discussed the Bible and its timeline. It was a story written over a 200-year time span. Who knew that? And all the different versions of the Bible and the different ways God shows up in them. It's all really interesting stuff. I love learning from different religions and humanist teachings. Over the past months in the RISI class, we've talked about the early years of the Dalai Lama and sculpted the Bodhi tree. The conversations I've had with our young students have been tremendous. How Tai Chi and meditation are practices of spirituality and the importance of recess to move our bodies. We've explored similarities between the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, Jesus, and the importance of caring for people who are different from ourselves. My own knowledge has grown exponentially, but more importantly, it is the hundreds of conversations with youth and parents that has helped shape my faith. The children help me feel the expanding love we UUs talk about, the ability of our hearts to expand, the ability of love to expand to include others who are different from ourselves. So that's the programming piece. The second leadership area is strategic planning. Strategic planning, similar to what you've talked about, is about understanding a mission and vision and defining where an organization wants to be in the future. This was so successfully demonstrated with the fabulous realization of owning our own home. It takes so much behind-the-scenes work by people, right? Currently, I have the pleasure of working on the Comprehensive Planning Committee. Now that we have sufficiently recovered from the hard work of buying our own building, we are ready to define our next horizon. This planning process includes dialogue with the congregation around our collective understanding of Tapestry's history. The committee has created a statement of our history, and now we are exploring what our calling is for the future. We will gain more perspective through conversations with community leaders as to what they see as the needs in neighborhoods surrounding our beloved Tapestry. And as we proceed, we'll be ensuring listening and feedback sessions continue with the congregation. It's all about appreciative inquiry and creating a collaborative understanding to help us define where we see ourselves in the future. There are lots of people in this congregation and therefore many ideas of what paths we might define for ourselves going forward. Whether thinking through the capital campaign for our own building or articulating our calling, I understand that this strategic planning work really does take a village. Believing in what I couldn't see and committing to make something better through dedication with the community has bolstered my spirituality, which in turn helped me to my own definition about faith. As Martin Luther King famously said, faith is taking the first step when you don't see the whole staircase. So my third and final area of leadership is developing the next generation of leaders. Somehow, even though I have run nonprofits as the CEO, served on numerous boards, it was many years before it dawned on me that Tapestry has only a few paid staffers, so there is a lot of work that needs to be done by volunteers. One of my favorite volunteer experiences has been to be a sponsor for the youth conferences, or cons, held in the region. For those of you not familiar, a con is an opportunity for kids from the Southwest regional congregations to gather during times throughout the year outside of Camp de Benneville. An adult from each congregation helps drive and is present during the weekend. As an aside, you don't need to be a parent to do this. Most kids don't want their folks to go. We didn't get to volunteer until after our kids were through with high school. Good thing is the youth do all the work at the con. The weekend, usually 3 days, 2 nights, is an opportunity for high schools to do something they love. A community slumber party. Seriously though, the youth plan the content and assign work groups for the programming, for the worship services, for the cooking team, and the auction. Yes, an auction. These kids hold a fundraiser amongst themselves to raise money for the scholarships to camp for other kids who can't afford it. Is that not cool? At one of the cons last year, the youth had a very informative learning session on the realities of becoming unhoused. Ryan, Jesse, Abigail, and Amber from Tapestry attended. At the conclusion of the weekend, they did a round robin on what each of their congregations were doing to help address homelessness, and they helped each other identify different ways they could work on the issue. You can imagine how my heart swelled a few weeks ago when I heard Ryan talking about how he helps John and Bruce with delivering food to the shelter in Laguna Beach. They are now looking to see if we could do the cooking here at Tapestry for that meal delivery and add one more delivery during the month. I don't see John and Bruce, but I see Ryan. Anybody that's interested, Ryan, wave your hand. Developing leaders isn't just about identifying talented, smart people. It's about modeling the behaviors. There's a little commonality in these talks. We didn't coordinate, you can tell. Modeling the behaviors that embody the organization's values so that the youth can see what it looks like. It's about facilitating their experience along the way, like helping them get to cons, and have the leadership experience of developing the program and creating work teams so that they can be authentic leaders in their futures. It's about teaching the importance of community and helping one another. The only reason I could do this talk today is because my son, Grayson, is covering my RE class upstairs at the very moment, talking about Islam. I'm so proud of our youth. I'm impressed with how they think and take action. My faith has expanded because of them. Our youth have given me new hope for the future. Given me new hope for the future. Really, isn't that what leadership is all about? Helping people lean into their future, and having a belief in a brighter future is part of faith, right? We all have different skills and ability to give our time, treasure, or talent. I would encourage you to think about where you might bring your interests and strengths to contribute to this community. I assure you, your faith, your personal faith, will be enhanced. I'll end with a quote I found on the UUA website that was a great summary for me. I'd never been there before. Live your values aloud, not alone. Our open-minded, open-hearted spiritual communities help people lead lives of justice, love, learning, and hope. Your adventure in faith can start here.
Pretty tough to follow all these great speakers, and your stomachs are probably rumbling, and maybe you need a little recess yourselves. So wiggle as you might. And I do challenge you. I hope that out of the speakers, and I was thinking we could have stopped right after the children's story. That probably would have been enough of a leadership talk right there. But I challenge you to find maybe something you connect with out of all of these things, maybe something that you don't quite connect with or you question, or maybe something, hopefully, that inspires you along the way. Here's my look at what leadership means to me. It's been a while since I've taken time to reflect on this question. I wish I could go back to an earlier me and see what then I would have believed about leadership. I'm hopeful that through all the years, I would say that leadership has to do with the heart. It is about following one's heart, sharing one's heart, and giving from the heart. It doesn't have to do with a position held or status attained. It is about service and making this world a little bit better place each day. Hold on to that heart idea, because I will come back to that through the rest of this talk. But first, however, let me reminisce a bit about my younger years. I was exposed to leadership early in life. I had modeling from my parents, who were teachers and coaches. My parents were educators and were also involved in leadership in their small churches. I'm not sure I would have labeled it as leadership back then, but I certainly saw them stepping up, serving people for the greater good, and getting things done. They modeled for me what giving from the heart looks like. That included having 5 children themselves, adopting my sister, and then when I was about 18, taking in, over the next few years, 6 more Vietnamese brothers and sisters into our family. I was able to learn and grow as a person in a small rural school in northern Minnesota. I was able to do sports, music, drama, and more. I suppose leadership was embedded, but generally what I saw was things needed to be done, and I enjoyed the chance to explore and to pursue my curiosities. I took this same spirit into college, where during that time I became president of the concert choir. I was a founding member of the Student Peace Network. I was able to work with great people to address important needs, and I certainly learned along the way. After resisting for a time the call to teaching and coaching, I did become a math teacher and coached several sports over 13 years. I quickly understood the responsibility that comes with taking on these roles. I realized that as a leader, I needed to model hard work, care for others, and being a lifelong learner. Teaching and coaching had given me the opportunity to be a leader. Being a member of Tapestry has also been fertile ground for practicing leadership. I've been a part of the Tapestry family for 18 years. I've been able to serve as a learning member in many ways, as was stated earlier, in choir, as a worship associate, a board member, past president. Here, just like back in my earlier years, I see that there's a lot to do, and I have been willing and able. I'm reminded of a story. It's called the Four People story. Maybe you've heard of it. In this story, there are four people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. So there's some substance to the story, but I'll cut to the end. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. I generally find it is really hard to sit back and wait for anybody to get the work done. Plus, I've almost always had opinions about how it should be done and an idea how it might be better. So I've been one of the somebodies who has raised my hand. Maybe this resonates for you as well. I've been working over the last 18 years now as a school site and district level educator. And a few years ago, we engaged in a book study across the district. The book by Timothy Knold is titled Heart. It really hit home for me and helped energize my leadership work. Early in the book, the author quotes Václav Havel as he writes, "The salvation of the human world lies nowhere else than in the human heart, in the human power to reflect, in human meekness and human responsibility." I find this to be a call to action, but also to think, to follow one's heart and support others' hearts. Dr. Knold creates a clever acronym out of the word heart to help define and recall important elements of leadership. There are full chapters on each of the letters in heart, but I'll just tell you briefly what they are. H is for happiness. E for engagement. A for building alliances. R for risk. And T for thought. Heart. Following one's heart in service and in continuous learning, it starts with happiness. In another book that we're just starting to explore in our district called The Happiness Advantage, the author Sean Aker provides research to show that it is with happiness that success is possible, not the other way around. He shares 7 principles and practices to help grow happiness, including that of taking intentional time to be grateful, to practice gratitude. I'm just starting this new district book for learning now, but I can tell that it will be another shot in the arm for me for leadership. Building and sustaining habits and mindsets that support happiness is important and is a key ingredient of heart. The engagement and alliances section of the HEART acronym fits well within my career and within our organization. All around us, as we have heard, we see and hear about models of people stepping up and serving and really giving of themselves. We have so many people who in so many ways are engaged and helping to build alliances. People here have seen a need to serve others from the heart, and you lead. One of the great things about being in education and here at Tapestry is that we get to be involved in important things with great people. Because of that, I truly don't even mind being in meetings. I don't mind because there's too much good work to be done and it's better doing it together. It's more than one person could do alone. Our Tapestry covenant states that love is the spirit of this congregation and service is its law. This itself could be a definition for leadership and a call to all of us to find our place in leading. It can certainly take all forms. The last two letters of the acronym HEART are represented by the concepts of risk and thought. It is about exploring ideas and wondering why, along with how can we do things better. As we are creating our paths to truth and meaning, it is about bringing hope while realizing that change is possible and necessary. If we are willing to be vulnerable, to risk putting ourselves out there and practicing a growth mindset, we are leaders and we support others in their leadership along the way. Being a leader, stepping up and putting ourselves out there does take courage. It can be difficult work and we aren't perfect. Heaven knows that I haven't always felt equipped for the work that has been needed. If you are the praying type, maybe you've said something like this famous prayer: Dear Lord, so far today I've done all right. I haven't gossiped. I haven't lost my temper. I haven't been grumpy, nasty, or selfish, and I'm really glad of all that. But in a few minutes, Lord, I'm going to get out of bed. And from then on, I'm probably going to need a lot of help. Luckily, we have a community of heart and a community of leaders here at Tapestry. I'm glad to be here with you and thankful for the service that you provide for me and for each other. Here I have the opportunity to work on my heart, on my happiness, and that of others. I'm encouraged to continue to engage and build alliances, to support and take risks, and to think deeply. What does leadership mean to me? Has it changed over time? I hope so, and if it hasn't, I hope it will in the years ahead. Thank you for being in my heart.